This ping pong racket started off as a $1 piece of junk. The transformation story coming up. So the story is that at the place where I did my internship, they had a ping pong table and there was a box full of ping pong rackets and this was one of them. So the first time I went to pick it up, everybody else there were like, yo, don't use that bat, it's the worst one in the box, it's a piece of junk. And they were right, it actually was a piece of junk. So this was a racket that was probably from some $1 discount variety store, and it had these incredibly thin rubber skins, which were completely useless, they might as well have not been there. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to give this a makeover and see if I can turn this into something that's actually viable to use on the table. So I took it home, I ripped off the old skins just with my hands, and then I bought some replacement rubber skins from eBay. That cost me around $8, and I got this edge strip as well, which cost me about $1. That's including shipping. So in Malaysian ringgit, that's around about 40 to 50 ringgit. And yes, I spent 40 to 50 ringgit on what initially cost probably about 5 ringgit. So after ripping off the skins, I used a file and some sandpaper to smooth down all the wood and get all the edges a little bit nicer. And there were also a lot of holes in the wood because it was really poor quality wood that was being used. So I filled those with some epoxy resin filler and then did a bit more sanding and smoothing down just to get it all nice. And then laid on the skins and glued them in place. Now to glue them, you're supposed to use ping pong rubber glue. There's a special glue for it, which is a water-based glue. I didn't use that because it's quite pricey. Instead, I just used regular craft glue. You can see I'm using Elmer's glue right here. And it's water-based, it's going to do the job just as well. I already had it lying around, so why not? So after gluing the skin, put some newspaper on either side and let it sit under a phone book overnight so that it properly glues in place and so that the weight is evenly distributed across it. The next day I trimmed off all the excess of the rubbers, and I did the same for the other side. And after doing that, I put on the edge strip. You'd think I was done, but no, I wanted to add a little bit more of a personal touch because I'm not keeping this. This is going back to the place where I did my internship. It doesn't belong to me after all. So I wanted to almost give it back to them like a little gift, something to know that this thing, there was still hope. There was potential in this racket all along. So I wrote a little message on here with a Sharpie. I wrote built, not bought, put in the date and my signature. And on the other side, it says real cold coffee is brewed cold. The last thing I wanted to do is I didn't want this stuff to rub off with my sweaty hands. So I took it outside, put some newspaper on either side of the rubbers, and I sprayed it with some clear acrylic paint. I put on about 3 layers, 3 coats, let it dry in between each coat, and it's all done. So there it is. Ping pong racket. It feels pretty legit, and I believe it's going to do a bit of damage on the ping pong tables. And you know, one thing that I absolutely love is when old things that are just lying around and not being used get restored or upcycled or, you know, revived in some way. I love it when old cars get restored, all those sorts of things. So I really hope this inspires you. Let me know in the comments, what kind of things in your house do you have lying around that you plan to restore, revive, or upcycle? I'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.